Hello survivors and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to be doing a raid gameplay video for Michelle, and this is following on from my weapons, mods and team build video that I did last week for her. We're going to be using pretty much the same mods, identical actually. I did show the stats that I had on my character when she became a 6-star and got modded up. This is Michelle as a base 6-star, obviously 2286 attack, 1306 defense and 1851 HP. So the obvious issue with Michelle is that she hasn't got high defense. She's not going to be getting any sort of survivability within her leader skill, so you have to decide whether you're going to go that way with her weapon. Probably not the best idea, just because it's actually hard to make her weapon change in the future if you have a change of heart. Her mods are the easiest things to reconfigure, so that's the best place to put some defense on there or some HP on there. Probably some defense just because it's lower than the HP, and trying to even those out is always a good way to go. And basically, if you decide later on, actually I don't want that extra defense, I just want to go all out offense, then you can just drop that mod. It's nice and easy, you don't have to reset the weapon. So this is, like I said, Michelle as a base 6-star. And this is Michelle all buffed up with my combat mods. My combat mods are, as you can see, this is exactly what I went through on my video in terms of mod selection. This is effectively an assassin build that I'm trying to build for her in terms of high output damage against blues. I just want her to annihilate those blues. She's got reasonably decent attack bonus with 575, but she's got a huge amount of attack versus tough on top, 40% extra. That's like having an extra weapon, and that is really, really strong. And then obviously you've got the stun resist to counter the greens, which are going to focus her, because obviously stun on attack is going to be massive on defense teams. AP down's just for a little bit of control from my testing. It has come into effect a couple of times, maybe got me out of a jam once or twice, but it's mainly just for a little bit of control. And obviously that defense mod in the wildcard slot just to bring her defense up and make her survive a little bit. She does get hit quite a lot because she is obviously a fast character and they have got greens on defense, and she can take quite a lot of damage. But it doesn't seem to be too bad. The weapon upgrade that I got, I did get a perfect weapon. It did take me 2 tries, but 40% attack and a huge bonus to AP when attacking. I think this is the best weapon to go for quickly, but if you want to go for an 8% weapon and try and get this nice 8% sort of quick, fast team out in terms of turn 2 rushes, that's definitely a way to go. If you do want to actually do a heavy, fast attack team, that is pretty much the only way to go, because I've used a full fast team, mainly free-to-play characters, and it just takes too long to get into a position where you're actually going to be rushing, and you haven't really got as much control. Obviously, fast characters don't have any sort of taunt characters. They don't have any decent actives like that. I guess you could potentially say Romanov has got taunt on his weapon. You could potentially use him now. He's in the 5-star wheel. But so I think a mixture of reds and yellows is always the way to go. Now the first team I'm going to use is the team that I'm using myself, and I'm going to be using myself. I haven't had any issues with this team. I rarely have ever lost, and it was generally I lost only before Michelle's weapon was actually maxed, so I wasn't getting a turn 3 rush on her. It is so strong, and if, like I said, Sandy does get killed, we'll just check out Sandy's mods. She is much more offensive in terms of her. She's mainly there for the damage output. She has obviously got Decapitate, so I'm trying to take advantage of that. I'm mainly trying to kill the greens on their defense teams, obviously doubling down on the damage against greens. I have got stun resist on her as well, even though she probably won't be focused by those guys. But I have got attack while impaired, so if she does get impaired, I can obviously get an extra bit of attack, just so I'm hitting heavier with her basic attacks. All out attack with her other mods, though, is attack on crit damage, and it is obviously crit on crit damage. I've gone for crit damage just because I want to try and do as much damage with her rushes, and it's fun. I just find crits really fun, if I'm honest. So I try and have as much fun as possible. Her crit chance isn't the hugest, it's only 32, but if I can get a 40 or something, obviously that's going to make a big difference. The other characters are pretty defensive, as you can see. HP and defense on Bruce, defense on Kate, and HP and defense on Lydia. They're literally just there to survive and open up the game for Michelle and Sandy, and to keep those guys up. So here's some gameplay of this particular team. So obviously having a disarm on an attack team is a massive advantage. I take any disarm you have. If you have a disarm, take it. Even if it's going to take trait damage, even if it's not going to take leader, bonus, just basically always have a disarm in your team if you've got one, and just get them out defensively. Now, the best thing about this team, obviously, is the rushes were going off really nice and early. I was rushing before the defense team, and the offensive output in terms of the amount of damage I was doing was massively boosted, and I was taking a lot of teams out by turn 3, and that's really nice, to be honest, against these really tanky Eric teams. Now, winning that quick obviously is just something that I haven't had happen for a very long time, especially since the defense team meta has become really tanky. It's been really slow to break them down. I haven't had the sort of characters to be able to do this, and this is just one character that has unlocked a lot of my roster because of this. It is always generally going to be an attack team character in terms of the leader, or it's going to be like a premium specialist skill like a Decapitate. Obviously getting Decapitate Sandy from the Road Warrior event as well. The combo of Michelle and her is so important. If you have those two characters, I'd say they definitely work extremely well together. Now, there were a couple of things happening that I noticed in terms of Michelle was obviously destroying characters, so I had no problem there, but I had Sandy dying quite a lot. Having Lydia on my attack team made that, you know, her going all out glass cannon wasn't as big a problem. But if you do not have a revive on attack, she will die quite quickly. So you're going to have to think of a different way maybe to mod her out. I don't think modding her out how I have is viable without a revive or a guardian shield. She could potentially have a bit more survivability if she's getting those guardian shields. But the combo that was happening quite a lot was Sandy was getting killed. I could then do my AP gain active with Michelle, give Lydia her rush. Lydia would rush, revive Sandy, Kate would rush for the shield bypass. Sandy would then obviously be attack bonused, and I could take out 2 characters. And that is a really nice combo. It was happening quite consistently as well. It wasn't something, you know, you get into that rhythm on an attack team, notice that things just keep happening over and over again, and that was something that just kept happening over and over again. And I'm really enjoying this attack team, I will be honest. I'm really looking forward to actually using it. I could also use this team against pretty much any defense team, because right now I'm using it against one where I'm taking trait damage. Whereas if I took it against a team where I wasn't taking trait damage, I'm still going to be doing good damage, but I'm going to be taking less damage, if that makes sense. So obviously this is going to become much more enjoyable for me, and I just hope there are going to be some attack characters that come out in the future that are going to be viable options to work with Michelle, you know, complement that attack team, and I look forward to that potential. Obviously I'd say Disarm and Decap are the most important ones. So I also decided to test out a pure free-to-play team. Now, the Brian in this team has not got any weapon upgrades yet, so there is a little bit of a damage reduction on him and how quickly he can get his rush out and so on. So obviously the 3 characters on the right were the replacements. We had Ezekiel and Mirabelle replacing Lydia and Bruce, and then we had Brian, just the like-for-like sort of damage replacement for Sandy. Now, obviously, Sandy's much better than Brian because she has Decapitate. Any kill she does get are going to stay down. But Brian's damage output potential is probably a little bit higher just because of the collaterals. But sometimes that can backfire in terms of giving people their AP to get rushes. I did test this team out a little bit. It wasn't mega fun, I'm going to be honest. It was a little bit shaky. Kate was a liability, if anything, just because I didn't have enough damage output, and Kate was the main upgrade. Obviously, Ezekiel and Mirabelle are musts because you have to have cleanses to have any chance. I didn't have anything to, you know, take care of those on defenses with no disarm, and unless Kate got her rush off, I couldn't really get past people, and the damage output just wasn't high enough. So while I could still win, it was just really slow. And when you've got an AP on attack leader with an attack bonus, you shouldn't be winning slowly. You should be winning quickly. You should be winning 3 to 6 turns. You should take characters that are going to have lots of damage output. You should be taking characters that are going to be basically winning you raids nice and quick. And I thought I was doing that. Obviously, Brian's weapon, maybe that's the liability. He could work otherwise. But I tested it out with a slightly different team, and it worked quite nice. I obviously had to replace Kate, and I was relying on Rick's active focus. I didn't use it too often just because the damage output was actually pretty decent. If they had no shields, they would destroy. This team would actually wreck non-shield teams. The second they had a shield, it was slowed down a little bit, but because of Ezekiel and Mirabelle, I could always cleanse issues, so that was always great, and that got me out of jams a few times. But I didn't really like this team. Obviously, compared to my original team, it was much less smooth, much more potential things to go wrong. But that being said, this is actually a pretty decent option if you obviously have these characters. You could buff them out a bit better. I think Brian could have done with a better weapon. Obviously, Brian could have done with better mods. Rick probably could have done with better mods. I have my best mods on my other characters. So they did have a bit of attack and defense on each of them, but not much else. So the last team I did was basically the same as the Brian and Kate team, but instead of Brian I had Sandy, and this was fine. This was absolutely fine. Obviously having a decap, even if it's slightly slower, those characters are going to stay down. I didn't have any issues with this team. Obviously Sandy could get killed quite easily, that's the only downside, but I didn't have any real issues with this team. And Ezekiel and Mirabelle being in there, a lot of people may say, it's kind of strange having these sort of characters in this attack team. They are there purely to cleanse Sandy and Michelle in terms of cleanse impairs, cleanse stuns, and just so they both can rush turn 3. And at that point, you should be in a lot of control. You should be taking out their big targets like their shields. You should be taking out their big issues like their revives. You know, you want to be decapping characters. You want to be just annihilating revived characters, especially Eric's. Sometimes Michelle wouldn't one-shot an Eric because they're still, even with her damage output, even with her mods, even with her weapon, even with her leader skill, they're so tanky sometimes that she couldn't one-shot them, even without bonus HP. So potentially there is always going to be that issue, but there's always the bonus of extra bleed and the stun that comes out afterwards. So she can still take them out, but it can take a little bit time extra. And sometimes they have stun resist, so sometimes that can backfire a little bit, but you work with what you can. All in all, I think that these Michelle attack teams are going to be a lot of fun and you know, increase enjoyability if you've got her as an attack leader, especially if you don't have huge amounts of promo characters. There are obviously Generation 2 promo characters that wipe the floor even with Michelle, but Michelle with free to play is really, really nice. She is going to have a lot of damage output. Her leader skill is going to be very nice with particular characters. If you've got that Sandy from the Road Warrior event, very nice indeed. Just try and basically build teams around those two characters, or around obviously Michelle and the second character, whoever that damage dealer is, and trying to get them to be able to get the most damage out as early as possible. And considering free to play have a lot of support characters, you've got your Javis, who has obviously a defense down and he has attack up. You know, you can potentially make that all fast team that I was talking about earlier, but you have to have those percentage weapons, otherwise you're going to get destroyed with an all fast team. So here are a bunch of more raids, and it's going to be a couple with the Mirabelle and Ezekiel sort of attack team that I put together last, just to show you basically how it can go over the course of a lot of different raids. So that's it, guys. That's the end of my video. I really like Michelle. I think she's a great character. She's a lot of fun. And I'm going to really enjoy using her during war. I'm actually going to be looking forward to actually trying to raid. Like, I have not been avoiding Eric teams pretty much when I've been doing raid tournaments. A lot of the time I look for drop teams, you know, the bot teams. But I've actually been focusing Eric teams because I can take them out in 2 or 3 turns. It's good practice. And it's actually fun. The most important thing about a game is that it is fun. And I think Michelle brings a lot of enjoyment back to the game, for me at least. So yeah, I hope you enjoy using your Michelle. Do tell me what weapon upgrades you're going to go with, what sort of mods, what team are you building around Michelle. And yep, that's the end of my video. Hopefully this has helped or intrigued you. If you were like, I'm not really sure about Michelle, you sort of see this damage output that she can bring to the table. She is a very nice character. That's the end of my video. Thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, guys, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.